Hello, I'm Patrick Jameson, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to properly measure PGT vinyl frame shapes. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to measure 4 different vinyl frame shapes and some of the best practices you can use out in the field. The first vinyl shape that we're going to measure is a trapezoid. The first thing is the orientation of this window. This is considered a trapezoid left because outside looking in, I'm currently on the inside, it slopes from the right down to the left. So this is a trapezoid left. For best practices when measuring, select the right size tape measure. For your really big openings, don't go with the small one, go with a bigger one. And then for your smaller openings, go for the smaller tape measure. And always make sure that they're accurate. Periodically double check your tape measures to ensure that they are accurate. On this trapezoid, we need 3 measurements. We need the width, we need the height, and we need the short height, or the leg height it's called. Because a vinyl frame window is measured daylight opening, or DLO, I need the inside measurement. So buck to buck with a deduction of shim space. If I put my tape measure up against the inside of that buck to the inside of this buck, it is 34.5 inches. For best practice, I want to deduct for shim space. So 34 3/8 or 34 1/4 would be a good accurate measurement. Now I'm ready to measure the height. So from my substrate up to the inside of my buck is 50 1/4. It would be best practice to order this at 50 1/8 or at 50 inches. Keep in mind this window is an equal leg or box frame. If this window was going to be ordered with a flange, the flanges would come together to a point and be welded. The 5/8 plus 5/8, where they come to a point, would actually extend further than my inside measurement opening. The block stucco would interfere with that flange. The third measurement is our leg height. I'm going to want to measure from the substrate to the top corner of the leg, the outside part of the frame, and it comes out to 16 1/4. For best practices, I would want to order this window at 16 1/8 or 16 inches even. For best practice, measure this window from the inside and the outside and see how those measurements compare. If there's a very large margin between the measurements, I would follow best practices and maybe chip away a little bit of the stucco or a little bit of the drywall, depending on which side that you're on, and verify where your accurate or your substrate measurements are at. Here is PGT's vinyl half circle window. Here is our half circle. A half circle is half of a circle, which means that when you're measuring for a half circle, your height can only be half of the width or less. If your height is greater than half of your width, it is no longer a half circle, it is an arch. To properly measure this, I will measure from my buck to buck, and I have 34.5 inches. So a good best practice measurement would be ordering this window at 34 1/4. So our width is 34 1/4, and if I measure my height, I have 17 3/8, but I'm going to want to allow for shim space. So 17 1/4 would be my height. If my height was 18, 19, or 20 inches, it would no longer be a half circle, it would be an arch. Here is PGT's vinyl quarter circle. Here we have our quarter circle. A quarter circle is half of a half circle, which means that the measurements are going to be the same for your width and height. In order to properly measure this window, we're going to have to measure from buck to buck and get our width first, which is 34.5 inches. Best practice, deduct for shim space, 34 1/4 or 34 1/8. Measuring the height from our substrate up to the vinyl frame window is also 34.5 inches, and we'll need to deduct for the shim space 34 1/4 or 34 1/8. One of the challenges that we run into is where drywall or sheetrock is covering up the window frame, and we don't know exactly how far that depth is to the buck or the wood substrate. One tool out there is a pocket ruler. The pocket ruler is very thin. It can slide between the window frame and the drywall. This slide will press up against the drywall. We can remove this pocket ruler and I can see exactly how much of the drywall is covering the window frame. Depending on the shape or the type of window, you can apply the same process on the other side, and now you have a better idea of what your inside measurements are. Another best practice is if you don't have a pocket ruler, go ahead and chip away or use an X-Acto knife to see exactly where that buck or that substrate's at. Same thing with the exterior. Chip away a little bit of the stucco to verify, does the window have a flange? Is it an equal leg? Where's the buck or where is the wood frame substrate? Here is PGT's equal octagon shaped window. Here is our equal octagon. Not equal leg, this has a flange, but equal being that it's equal on all 4 sides. You can order an unequal where one of the sides is longer or shorter than the other, but this is equal all the way around. Another best practice with a tape measure, don't look so far away of where your measurement is at because you could be off on your measurement. Have the end of the tape measure over there and then get close to your measurement. Make sure that the end of the tape measure is hitting your drywall or your buck, depending on what you're pushing the tape measure up to or hooking onto. And make sure your tape measure is level. If you have this tape measure slanted, your measurement is going to be off. I'm now ready to measure my width opening. So from buck to buck is 34.5 inches. For best practice when ordering this window, I'm going to deduct an 1/8 or 1/4 inch. So 34.25 would be a good width measurement. Let me measure from my substrate to the top of this opening, which would be 34.5 inches. I'll deduct another 1/4 inch. So 34.25 would be my height, making it an equal octagon. For best practice on an equal octagon, go ahead and measure from this side to this side, as well as this side to this side. That will ensure that you have a true equal octagon. To recap, I've now demonstrated how to measure 4 different PGT vinyl shape windows. I'm Patrick Jameson and thanks for watching.